Wow, that's a good one. I like that one. Nice.
Be quiet.
Yeah, we want to be quiet because we want to hear what he has to say, don't we? He's got stuff to teach us. We want to hear it. If you're talking, you're not going to hear it.
And I am going to tell you some crazy things today. Really, too crazy. Really crazy. And you might not believe me. You might not believe me. But it's true. I'm a scientist. And the things I'm telling you are true. And you can go home and you can ask your parents. And they'll tell you that, yeah, these crazy things I told you about are actually true. So, we are going to talk about how we go from hard to see to full-sized meat. Okay? So everybody knows what this is. We're going to start with something. It is an egg. You don't even have to raise a hand for that. So it's an egg. What's inside an egg?
Yolk.
Yolk.
Egg whites.
Egg whites. Is there a chicken inside this?
No.
Can there be a chicken inside this?
Yes.
So interesting. If I were to open it up, what would I see inside? You said egg yolk, right? And egg whites. But that's not a chicken. How do we go from what's inside here to a chicken with feet and a beak and a head? How does that happen? There isn't a tiny miniature chicken inside there, is there? No. So what do you think is there?
Chick. Yolk. Egg yolk.
Egg yolk. And it's actually part of a cell. So it's called a little cell. And one of the three crazy things, I promised 2 crazy things, but I'll tell you 3 crazy things. So one of the crazy things is that each one of you was once a cell. When you were deep inside mommy, it wasn't a full-size you waving arms. You started as a tiny version of this, as an egg. Just one little cell. So if we break this up, you will see, and I've done this with one egg, so you'll see that yes, exactly as you guys predicted, there is egg yolk. Yeah.
And an egg.
But there's also, we're going to really carefully pass this around so it doesn't spill, but there is a white little dot on top of the egg yolk in every egg that you open. Okay, do you see the white little dot?
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Why don't you? Thank you, Rose. You see the white dot? So that white dot is the cell. Right? Together with the egg yolk. And that's the most important part of the cell. Yeah. So that's the very beginning. And each of you in the very beginning was just one cell. Just this one little white, way smaller even than this. The chicken cell in the egg is big. Human egg cell inside mommy, tiny. You were tiny, impossible to see. This one you can see, you were impossible to see. So
So we're invisible.
you were invisible. Well, you could be seen under a microscope. But everything that you can really think of in the animal kingdom, plants, starts out as a cell like that. Right? And every little seed of a plant and every animal starts out from one cell. So you see the white?
I saw it.
So that's the cell. All right. And now comes the hard question. How do we go from this to the chicken? How do you go from this, from the hard to see, to the full-size meat? How do we get Tamar out of this with hands? You studied organs, right? You had someone come in to show you the lungs. You had someone come in to show you the heart. We have all these different organs inside us. We have hands, we have ears. How do we get that out of just this white tiny dot in the beginning? Yes.
It grows.
It grows. It does grow. That is true. Cells do grow. So, what happens inside the egg? Do you think that this tiny white spot just grows, and this one cell becomes huge, enormous cell? No, that wouldn't work. That cell would break. This egg doesn't grow. The chick grows inside it, right? So what do you think happens? Go ahead.
I think it grows until it's big enough that it stops.
It stops. And then what happens is it gets bigger. So it starts tiny. And what do you think happens then?
The egg is too small, and a chick breaks out of the egg.
Yeah, that's true. Once you already got the chick will break out of this. Once you get too big to be inside mommy, you come out. That's called birth. Right? Rose knows all about this. But before what? That's right. So, before we grow and become a chick that then breaks this open and comes out, before that, how does this cell give rise to the beak? How does the tiny little cell that was inside Rose give a head to Lucy? It's a hard question.
We haven't talked about it.
It's a hard question. And the answer is, go ahead, Lucy, what do you think? It's a hard question. There's a string? There is a string. You're thinking umbilical cord. Very good. That helps to get the food to the cell for it to grow. But the answer is, it's not just one cell that keeps growing. The cells grow, and then it divides in the middle and becomes two cells. So we get from here, it divides and keeps growing, and all of a sudden you get two cells. And then each of them divides. So you start out as one, that just one little white dot that you just saw. You start from that, and then they divide, and you get 4. And pretty quickly, you get more and more cells.
Like 7 and 8 and 9 and 10.
Yeah, so then they divide, and okay, so this looks pretty reasonable. This is cool. We now have 16 cells here. That's good. And it's going to keep doing this and doing this, but we have another problem. So we got more cells. It's growing inside the egg. This is so wonderful. You're growing inside mommy. But the cell, this little round thing, that's not an arm. How do we get an arm?
It grows even more.
It grows more. Yeah, and you have your hand up. Go ahead.
They gather on top of each other.
They do gather into organs. That's true. And what's going to happen? Hold on just 1 second. You wanted to answer this too? You have a little bit of home discussion, so you're cheating a little bit, right? Let's wait a little bit. So, what's going to happen is they cluster together, and some of the cells, say from here, are going to turn into, later, the head. And this cell over here is
It's
going...
gonna turn into an arm.
Yeah, it's going to turn into an arm. I am not very good at drawing, but these cells will turn into legs, and then you get a little baby inside mommy that has the arms and legs. So this is nice, but here's the crazy part. Now we come to the really crazy part of this. How does this cell know to become a hand? How does this cell know that when they divide, they need to group together and become a head? How does this one become a leg? What if it all got switched around? What if it was just by chance, this one became a leg, this became the head, here you got another hand? Would that work? So when the cells are dividing, they have to know what they're going to become. The cells over here have to know that they need to make an arm. The cells inside need to know to make the heart that you saw. The cells over here need to know to make liver and lungs. And all the things we have, cells in here, there are lots of cells inside each eye. So they have to know. How do they know this? How do they know what they need to become? That's crazy. I would never know the answer if I wasn't a scientist and didn't learn about it. And so let me tell you how they know. It turns out, this is the crazy part, there are books inside our cells. So, you have lots of books over there. Some books are big, some books are small. Eva's sister reads smaller books, Eva reads bigger books. Some books are just for fun. Other books, like this, are what? What is this?
Body books.
Recipe.
It's a recipe book. It's a cookbook. It has recipes. So this isn't just for fun. You don't read a funny little story in here. There are no dogs. There are instructions here. So this is a pretty big book. I use it in the kitchen. I can make delicious soups if you ever come over. And this tells me what to do on each page. Yeah? So that's a cookbook, an instruction book. Here is another one that's smaller. Wait, that's not the book I want to show. Here's another cookbook. It's smaller than this. It also has instructions. Now imagine taking this, making it so tiny you can't even see it, and putting it inside each cell. And that is I know it sounds totally crazy, but every one of the cells, and we have millions and millions and billions of them, has a book inside it. Each cell has a book, and the book has the instructions. And the instructions tell us whether it's to become an arm or a head. All right?
Or a leg.
Or a leg.
Or a foot.
Or a
Or a
foot.
face.
Now, the books are really tiny. Okay? So, this is good. We get this. There is a tiny little book, and that book is called, you can ask at home, that book is called the DNA. There is a DNA book inside of every little cell that tells the cell what it needs to do. So you don't get an eye over here and a liver over there.
Oh.
All right?
Hair.
Hair, inside here, there are cells that know, because of the books inside, there are cells in here that know that they need to make hair. It's instructions. It's exactly what you thought.
It's not like instructions.
Let's raise our arm. Let's raise our hands. Because the cells gave us hands, so we can raise them. Who had a question? You had a question? Go ahead.
What about hair on the picture?
The hair on the picture? I didn't draw it. Maybe there's no hair yet. It's a baby and it's going to grow later. Or we can do it. Other questions? All right.
A tiny bald baby.
Was there? All right. Another question? You had a question? No? Question? All right. Guys, we'll listen. Next question. All right. So if there are no questions, let's get to the second crazy part. So we know we have little books. It's hard to imagine this, but we have little books inside the cells. But we just looked here. How many cells are in this egg? How many books are in this egg?
0.
1. No, there is one book. That's exactly right. Each cell has a book. That's the DNA. So there is a book, but there is one. There's only one. Remember, we started just with one cell here, and then it started dividing. How did we get a book from this one cell, from here? How did we get a book into every cell? All right, I think his hand was up.
The book spreads apart.
Well, then we'd only have parts of a book, but we need the whole book in every cell. That was a good guess. You're close. What do you think, Eva?
The cell grows.
The cell grows, and how does it get a book? How does each cell get a book when we divide?
Because that cell grows into other cells.
Grows into other cells, and the answer is it makes a copy. Every cell, when it divides, makes a copy of the cookbook inside it to give to the daughter cell. They're actually called mother cells and daughter cells. So when this divides, it takes the book inside it, the DNA book, makes a copy of everything in that book and puts it in the other cell. So every cell gets a copy of the book. Right? So we have tons and tons of cells. And remember, it's in the chicken, it's in the plants. Remember you did experiments with plants where you take a seed and it grows? It's not just the seed, right? There are different parts of the plant. There's books inside the cells. It all works like this.
Even in a seed.
Even in a seed. And, so we know that we got the cell The cell has a book inside that tells it what to do. Now here's another hard question. Here's another hard question. So we have the DNA. That's the book inside each of the cells, right? There is a little book. It has DNA. That's nice. But it's the same book in every cell. So how does this cell know to make the head? And how does this cell know from the book to make the leg? What do you think? Think of the book. Go ahead.
On every page they have different things.
Exactly. Excellent. Spot on. So, there are different pages with different recipes in this book. The DNA book in every cell has a different page with different instructions. Those pages are called genes. Not these genes. It sounds the same, but they are instructions inside every book. And every cell turns to the different page and says, oh, let me see, what is this? Oh yeah, I'm going to be the head. And starts making the head. And the cells over here look at a different page and go, oh, I'm not a head. It says over here, oh, it says to make a liver. All right, let's start making a liver. So that's what the genes do. They're pages of the DNA book.
Jeans.
They're called
Wearing
genes.
jeans.
It's a different gene.
Excuse me.
Christine.
Excuse me. Let's remember. Nikolai, please sit down on your bottom. Tamar, on your bottom, please.
I think we're getting close to the end of the nature study. So I told you two really crazy things. Inside every cell in your body, there is a book. And when the cell divides, in order to go from one to the entire you, it needs to copy the book. But do you want to know, I told you two crazy things. If you're really quiet and you really want to know, should I tell you a third really crazy?
Yeah.
If there is a book inside every cell, and that book has pages, and the pages tell the different cells what to do, who is reading that book inside the cell? Guesses?
The cell is reading its own book.
The cell reads it, but there's something inside the cell. What's the cell? Who reads the book? All right, take a guess.
The yolk.
No, the yolk is actually food for the growing
I
chick.
knew it.
Yeah, the yolk is the food. It's hard, and this is crazy. Now you're going to go home and you're going to tell your parents that a crazy scientist came, but I'm not crazy. I actually looked inside cells. We have super powerful microscopes. We have tools to look inside the cells and see these books and see who reads them. And it turns out that in every cell, in order to read the book and get to the right page and make the right organ, inside all of these cells, there are tiny little helpers. So each cell, each tiny cell, that white cell that you saw in the egg, has millions of tiny little helpers. Like tiny robots. Very hard to see. It's hard to see the cells. It's even harder to see those. So there are tiny little helpers all over.
Lucy.
And they read, they know which page to turn to. They read what the pages say. And they help that cell to make the hair, to make the eyes, to make the eyes and to do exactly what the book says. And those are the helpers. That's the other crazy question. Those millions of helpers, when the cell first divides and needs to copy the book, someone needs to copy it. There is no Lenny inside of your cell sitting and copying each page of the book for the other cell. There are tiny little helpers, and they're called proteins.
Protein?
Yeah.
Yummy.
They're yummy proteins inside the cells. That's why we like to eat protein. We need them inside our cells. They do the work. They read the pages. They help the cell to do what it's supposed to do if it's inside the eye or the mouth. And the cells eat yolk. They eat the yolk. So that's what's going on inside of us, and that's how we go from heart to seed to full-size meat.
Thank you. That was very good. I never
All
thought
right.
it was a recipe book. That's interesting. I like that.
So can we recap? Can we review What are the 3 crazy things you're going to take home? Wait, not fair. Come on. First crazy thing. Inside of a cell is what?
A book.
A book. A DNA book. And what does the first cell have to do when it divides with that book?
Turn into copy.
Copy it.
Copy.
Oh, there was no hand. You have your hand up. Were you going to say copy also? You have to copy it. And the third crazy thing, someone raise your hand. The third crazy thing. All right, you had your hand up. There are 2 to 4 million little helpers inside each cell to read the book, to copy the book, and to do what the pages, the genes say. Those pages.
Oh, well, I have this.
All right.
The genes.
And we can now ask questions from Lenny individually, but I think we're done with the nature studies part of today. Thank you for being
Anybody have
such
any
wonderful
questions?
listeners.
No? Okay. Thank you. That was wonderful.
Thank you. If you have questions, just come on over and I'll answer them.
All right. I'm looking for kids who are ready to get up and take out work. Charlie's ready. Miles is ready. Nico and Casey are ready. Max and Ella. Noah and Francesca. Asa and Tanya.
I'm not going to
Amaya. Eva. Tamar. Nikolai and Lucy. Sam. Yes, both.